Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Mark Ellis. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is Dr. Keisha Davis, the county's health officer, Dr. Nina Ashford, Chief of Public Health Services, Dr. James Bridgers, Director of the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as Dr. Earl Stoddard, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Today, we have three special guests. Congressman Jamie Raskin, who will be joining us exactly at 1 o'clock. Dr. Mark Gladwin, who is a Dean, University of Maryland School of Medicine. Dr. Amitabh Varshney, who's a Dean, University of Maryland, College Park, College of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good afternoon, Mr. County Executive. I toss it to you.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to share that on Monday, Montgomery County and WMATA announced the MOU for solicitation of a developer for the North Bethesda Metro Station. It's intended to focus on life sciences-oriented development. It's a really important day for Montgomery County, and I was glad to see that this got picked up by a number of news outlets. When I first was elected 5.5 years ago, my goal was to create a major development scenario for White Flint because it's simply the largest redevelopable space on the Red Line, in fact, anywhere in the county that has access to transit. So it's a perfect opportunity. It's also planned for a BRT line and has potential to be a signature development, a potential ability to develop between the WMATA property and the other properties that are very much vacant and underutilized there, about 15 million square feet of development in and around the metro station. Amazon's interest and subsequent developer interest in redevelopment of White Flint Mall actually entertained a proposal from another developer and brought it to the learners to look at, only strengthened the case that this was the right place to drive development. You can't do what we want to do on any other metro station in the county. 4 years ago, we initiated an approach that had dual focus. We worked with the University of Maryland to create a graduate level AI program, now called the Institute for Health Computing, that's now launched in North Bethesda. At the same time, we began working with WMATA on a joint development agreement to focus development on their property at the North Bethesda Metro Rail Station. And today we signed a memorandum of understanding with WMATA, actually Monday, that begins the process of soliciting a developer for this project. This is a big win for the county. We now have the Institute, which will serve as an attraction for new development and support AI research for the life sciences companies that are already here. And we have this MOU that will focus on building the urban center for life sciences embedded in a place with rail access, housing, and amenities. One of the biggest selling points for this location is the ease of access. It sits on top of an existing rail line, and the construction project around the North Bethesda Metro Rail Station will provide direct access to the kind of education, housing, and retail opportunities that attract major companies and top talent. The site is also large enough to develop into a mixed-use asset with startups and established companies, as well as giant corporations. This MOU brings it all together. After selecting a developer later this year, WMATA will negotiate an agreement that will allow the developer to develop the 14-acre site that they have. And this development is anticipated to include between 2 and 3.7 million square feet of housing, office, retail, public spaces, and a rich talent pool that is one of the largest in the country. So now is the time to capitalize on this area's potential to be the most valuable open development site in the entire state. We've already received big checks from our state and federal partners, and we have big plans to go with them. At the signing ceremony, Senators Chris Van Hollen and Ben Cardin presented a $5 million check that will help pay for planning and preliminary engineering on a new north entrance to the North Bethesda Metro Station. In the 20 months since we first announced the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing, or IHC for short, we've seen a lot of progress on the state and federal levels in helping to fund what we know will become an exciting new future for our life sciences industry and the economic viability of Montgomery County. We're now number 3 in life sciences in the country. We believe we have the ability to reach even higher. Everyone sees the importance of investing in this ambitious project, which will focus on developing the next generation of healthcare through augmented reality and the smart use of big data. I want to thank our congressional and Maryland delegation for securing more than $36 million to help bring us to this step in the evolution of the Institute for Health Computing. They've also helped us secure $6 million in yearly support to help grow the research facility. This commitment by WMATA and our partners shows just how vital this project is for our future. The project will position North Bethesda as the heart of the region's life sciences industry and help cement the county as the nation's #1 place for innovation. This also helps strengthen a science triangle that stretches from Shady Grove to Bethesda and over to White Oak. We're committed to making the county the leading home for biotech, and our vision for life sciences hub that rivals that's found in Boston, Simi Valley, and beyond can be realized. And I believe we're building in North Bethesda will soon be ranked #1 in the country. I hear the interest that IHC generates when I speak with business leaders from around the world and government leaders. It already is beginning to have a reputation and attract interest from other research and actually from companies beyond the United States because of the work they're going to be doing. So that's a very exciting development for us. The IHC brings together the strength of 3 universities. As the University of Maryland pointed out, we actually have a second triangle between the science triangle of companies. We've got a triangle of the University of Maryland College Park, the University of Maryland, Baltimore, along with the University of Maryland Medical System, as well as what's going to be happening at the Institute for Health Computing here in Montgomery County. It's going to create next generation AI academic research, and we're working together as one to advance the life sciences industry. IHC will become a catalyst for change, not only in North Bethesda, but also in the state of Maryland. So I look forward to talking about the exciting work that's happening at IHC now and what advancements are in store for the future. And I wanted to invite today Dr. Mark Gladwin, who's the Dean of the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and Dr. Amitabh Varshney, who's the Dean of the University of Maryland College Park College of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences to join us. So thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you so much for having Dean Varshney and I joining you for this press conference. We're absolutely thrilled about this partnership between Montgomery County, the University of Maryland Baltimore, which hosts the School of Medicine, University of Maryland College Park, and our clinical partners, the University of Maryland Medical System. So this partnership really brings together the computational and AI power of College Park married to the University of Maryland Medical System. And this system, we now take care of 2 million unique patients across the state of Maryland that are now all connected by the electronic healthcare record. And all of that data is accessible to drive preventive medicine, better patient care, and innovations in health computing. And it's also a really testament to how we can bring this university presence to Montgomery County to foster innovation and better patient care. Just a few updates. The Institute has been officially formed, approved by the Regents. It's also funded not only from Montgomery County, but the Empower Fund, which are funds that brings together College Park and the University of Maryland Baltimore. The agreements are in place for data sharing and partnerships with the University of Maryland Medical System, 12 hospitals across the state. We have a temporary space in Montgomery County at 6115 Executive, and we moved in January 1st, 2024. We have almost 70 full and part-time employees that are there on site now. We've recruited really high-level faculty from UCSF, Harvard, Mayo Clinic, Dana-Farber, some really exciting data scientists that are partnering with our College Park scientists. We also have some very interesting partnerships already developing with the National Institutes of Health. For example, the NHLBI, NIAID, NINDS, they're all interested in being part of this. So it's already serving to really be a magnet institute to bring in the health sciences in this very rich corridor along the Red Line. And just as an example of what we can do, the group is now putting in a major grant for this new health ARPA program, and it's called the HEROES program. And the focus of this program would be a $47 million grant to try to prevent fentanyl overdoses across the state of Maryland. And as you all probably know, fentanyl, Baltimore is now #1 per capita in the nation for fentanyl overdoses, and the state of Maryland is one of the top states for fentanyl overdoses. So we're aiming to use the electronic healthcare record to identify individuals at risk and to reach out and drive preventive care using this architecture and framework of the IHC. So this is just an example of the many ways that from this computing core in Montgomery County, we're going to be able to reach out across the state to save and change lives. Let me stop there and turn it over to my partner, Dr. and Dean Amitav Varshney.
Thank you, Dean Gladwin. As Dean Gladwin has said, what an exciting time to be here. So I'm Amitav Varshney. I'm a professor of computer science and dean of the College of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences at the University of Maryland, College Park, and a longtime resident of Montgomery County. And I'm coming to you live from the Institute for Health Computing. Nearly 2 years ago, County Executive Elrich shared an exciting vision with us. And it was to drive economic development through groundbreaking innovations in computing-enabled life sciences. And we are thrilled that we celebrated a significant milestone as we joined Montgomery County and the WMATA in launching a major transit-oriented life sciences center at the North Bethesda Metro Rail Station. A key highlight of this initiative is the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing, or as we proudly call it, the IHC. As Dean Gladwin has mentioned, IHC is a new academic health research institute which will elevate North Bethesda to serve as a hub for health computing innovation and economic development in Montgomery County. As you may already know, artificial intelligence is beginning to make a big impact on the field of medicine, from personalized medicine and new drugs to disease detection and community health trends. Life science companies today are seeing AI and data-driven approaches as a priority area for investment. Our institute will offer cutting-edge expertise in computation, AI, and immersive visualization, together with the clinical expertise in electronic health records from the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and University of Maryland Medical System. Our location among hundreds of biotech companies and government agencies like the NIH, FDA, and NIST will propel our region to be one of the finest in the country and around the world. In addition, our institute will afford us a pipeline of talented students from our respective universities, community colleges, HBCUs, and a variety of other institutional pipelines that will come into North Bethesda. We have no doubt that this will enable our Montgomery County, as well as the state of Maryland, to lead the nation in this transformative area. In addition, we are planning to offer evening courses in bioinformatics, computational biology, data science, machine learning, as well as a number of other areas through the University of Maryland Science Academy for local workers who want to gain new cutting-edge computational skills. So we look forward to working with the county and move all of us fearlessly forward. If you work for a life sciences company in Montgomery County, I invite you to connect with us and learn more about how IHC can help you. Visit our website, ihc.umd.edu, and reach out today. Thank you.
Thank you, Deans. Thank you, Dr. Gladwin and Dr. Varshney. Before we open it up for questions for the two of you, let's acknowledge that U.S. Representative or Congressman Jamie Raskin has joined us. Mr. County Executive, do you want to welcome the Congressman? And he will have some opening remarks related to several topics, but also including the Institute for Health Computing. Good afternoon, Congressman.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be with everybody.
Happy to have you here.
Hey, hello, County Executive Elrich. Great to see you.
Congressman, do you want to have some remarks first regarding Health Computer and the Institute? And we can get some questions on that for the doctors, because Dr. Gladwin is actually at the ICU right now. and he might need to go. And then you can continue with other topics. Can we do that?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's tremendously exciting, and it catalyzes so many strengths we have in the life sciences, in advanced research, and I'm thrilled about the WMATA Life Science Partnership. I was able to secure from the federal appropriations process a community project funding of $3 million for the White-Flit Institute for Computational Life Science in fiscal year 2023. So that's money we were able to procure, and I was very happy to be able to work on that. And it's just made me all the more excited about everything that's going on there. And, you know, the way we have just a very well-designed center with the North Bethesda Metro Station, and great private and great public entities all working together there. So I was thrilled to hear more about it, and I'm psyched to be part of this process.
I'm glad you were happy to help us get this done. This is really a big deal for Montgomery County. We've been looking for, a spark, and this is truly going to be more than a spark. I think we're going to make major progress in the field now. That's good for us.
And, I hear from so many of our people, Mark, that there are such extraordinary things going on in the life sciences, in different kinds of bio research and cancer research and so on. And people's only real frustration is just that the attention goes to Silicon Valley or, Route 28 in Massachusetts. And we've just got to get that word out to the rest of the country, as well as to people in Congress, that we are a real hub and a real vibrant center of all of this research.
That was one of the things we heard when we talked to some of the companies here. They would talk about going to these international conferences. Everybody knows the Raleigh Triangle. Everybody knows San Francisco. Everybody knows Silicon Valley. Everybody knows Boston. And here we are, number 3 in life sciences, with this amazing federal presence that helps support it. And people don't know about us. And so we've been working really hard. Part of the work we've done going overseas has been to emphasize what Montgomery County has. And we sell like crazy the presence of NIH and FDA, and particularly FDA, because all these other countries where they have drug companies doing entry to the US market, the FDA is the door to the market, and the door to the market sits in Montgomery County. And so that gives us a great locational advantage. So we're selling it every chance we get.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted about what's going on, and we will caucus together about what we can do to completely elevate the reputation and the profile of all of the great entities that we've got right here in Montgomery County.
I appreciate your help, as always. Lorna,
All right.
do you want to take questions real quickly?
Yes. Let's go ahead and do that, gentlemen. Let's open it up. Members of the media, for questions, please raise your hand regarding, of course, the University of Maryland Institute for Health, Computer, and Life Sciences in Montgomery County. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. No questions? For the doctors, deans? Dean Gladwin, Dean Varshney, thank you for joining us today. You can remain on the event, but if you have to go, please depart. Mr. County Executive, if you want to move with other topics, and the Congressman as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Congressman, how are things going, and what are the big things you're working on right now? Other than saving democracy,
Well,
or maybe including saving democracy.
You may have seen that we had a hearing on the catastrophic events, or the near catastrophic events, or I guess the catastrophic events that took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Of course, there was an attempted assassination that former President Trump narrowly escaped, but there was a firefighter who was killed and 2 other people who were seriously wounded. We had a bipartisan hearing. Chairman Comer and I made a powerful statement against political violence as a threat to democratic institutions and democratic life. And then after the very frustrating hearing where the Secret Service director really answered none of our most basic questions, including how is it possible that the shooter got up onto the roof of a building just 150 yards away. I mean, anybody could look at that and say that would be the key place somebody would go if they were going to try to conduct a mass shooting or an assassination. And there were just no answers. And so it was, it may have been about the most frustrating hearing I've been involved with since I got to Washington. In any event, we called for the resignation of the Secret Service director, and the Secret Service director did, in fact, resign. But to my mind, there's 2 more things that need to happen. One is we need to have a serious investigation as to how that took place, because we are in the middle, of course, in the middle of a very serious presidential election, and we got to make sure that the protectees, the Democrat, the Republican, the Independent, their family members are truly guarded and protected. But there's something else too, which is that was not just an attempted assassination, it was a mass shooting. In fact, it was not even the worst mass shooting on July 13th, 2024. The worst one was in Birmingham, Alabama, later that night at 10:30 p.m. There were 4 people killed and 10 wounded in a mass shooting in Birmingham. So even if we, clean up the Secret Services Act and we get the kind of protection that we need, what about the rest of us? What about all the other hundreds and thousands of people who are affected by mass shootings every year? And what about the tens of thousands of people who are affected by gun violence every year? And so, 20-year-olds should not be able to access AR-15s and show up anywhere, whether it is a presidential campaign rally or a movie theater or a church or a synagogue or a mosque or a Walmart or, a supermarket like in Buffalo, New York. And so that's the real problem. And so we have to deal both with the Secret Service issue on the defense side, but we got to deal with the AR-15 assault weapon issue and the weakness of our background checks on the offense side. We cannot allow these situations to arise anywhere in the country at any point. And so 90% of Americans supported universal violent criminal background check so that we can close the private gun show loophole, we can close the internet loophole, and 80% of the people support a ban on AR-15s and military-style assault weapons for daily civilian life. It just doesn't belong there. And so we're pushing for that. It's obviously going to be tough in this Congress, but I'm very hopeful that in the next Congress, we're going to be able to make this happen.
I'm hopeful too. I mean, it was kind of bizarre that the Supreme Court actually approved the use of these little trigger devices that basically turn a bad enough weapon into an automatic weapon. I was at a meeting actually where somebody told me how they had banned them, and I picked up my phone and I Googled the device. I showed him, I said, apparently you haven't banned them very well, because I can buy one now and it's on sale. And it's alarming that we've got to be sure we follow up on the things we say we're going to do. It's alarming the Supreme Court goes through some, wordy artifice to come about with how this is not an automatic weapon, even though it functions like an automatic weapon at the end of the day. I was astounded by that. And I'm astounded by the lack of discussion about guns in this case. You would think that Republicans, actually, I think most normal Republican voters probably share with us the same concern. Like you said, if you're getting 96% of the public who says that you ought to be doing background checks, this is not a partisan issue. The idea that some people try to make it a partisan issue is really frustrating, and more than a little bit.
It's not just the vast majority of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. It's the vast majority even of gun owners who support a universal background check. There's really no coherent argument against it. But the ideology behind this is that the Second Amendment gives people the right to overthrow the government, and so the people have to have an arsenal equal in firepower to that of the government. And there's just no basis for that in the language of the Constitution or the history of the Constitution. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia, the Supreme Court has repeatedly said, means well-regulated by the government, not by the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, or the KKK. And you don't just form your own militia. The militia, we know, is set up by the state government, that is the National Guard, and then it is trained and disciplined and regulated by Congress. And Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 of the Constitution says Congress can call forth the militias of the state in order to suppress insurrections. The framers were very troubled and moved by what had happened with Shays' Rebellion, and they wanted to make sure that we had an anti-insurrectionary constitution, and we do. I mean, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that anybody who's sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution who violates it by engaging in insurrection or rebellion shall never be allowed to hold federal or state office again. The Treason Clause, the Republican Guarantee Clause, they're all about guaranteeing the integrity of democratic institutions against people who would just say, no, we're going to take over with our firearms and our violence. So that's something, I hope we have made clear in terms of the government's response to the violent insurrection that took place on January 6th. Nobody has had their charges dismissed or their conviction reversed on the grounds that they had a Second Amendment right or some kind of constitutional right to overthrow the government. It just doesn't exist. So it's not true that the people need to have AR-15s to overthrow the government. Nobody's got a right to overthrow the government, and the AR-15s are just become a danger to people in normal civilian life.
You can change the government with a vote. That's why we have votes. I mean
that's what the social contract is all about. Nonviolent resolution of conflict and not violent resolution of conflict. So that's just like a basic precept of civil society that is now on the table. And it's just sad that we have such commanding majorities of Americans who want to see reasonable gun safety regulation, not taking away people's rifles for hunting and recreation, not taking away people's handguns for self-defense, but taking away the possibility of weapons of war, unless, people have a special permit and reason to have them. But it is a sign of the degradation of public discourse that after what happened at Butler, Pennsylvania, there was this emergency mobilization to focus on the Secret Service, which I was part of. That's great. But everybody, or a lot of people, just accepted, well, the public generally has to tolerate the possibility of AR-15 attacks, but we need to have special protection for people running for president. But why should anybody have to put up with that? Why do we have to live with attacks like the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School in Florida, or the attacks we've seen in Las Vegas, the worst civilian massacre in American history, with more than 60 people killed and hundreds injured, and the media focuses on it for a few days and then just moves on. But for the people who've been hit,
yep,
this includes mass shootings that have taken place in our state, you live with it for the rest of your life. Your family is permanently disrupted and your family life is permanently affected by this. And we've got tens of thousands of people across the country who've been directly affected, and hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, who live in communities that have been directly hit by this gun violence.
So, part of all this is trying to tone down the rhetoric. And I'm a little bit concerned, and I wonder if you've seen any movement in getting some of the Republicans to stop saying things like, if we don't win an election, there's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, that to me is not only inflammatory, but it puts, if you're worried about people getting nervous and thinking about how they're going to respond to all this, telling people there's going to be a bloodbath if we lose is not exactly a way to calm down the tempers in the country. I mean, I've been around long enough. I'm even older than you. So, I went through, the turmoil of the 60s. Nobody ever talked about this kind of nonsense. And it's just frightening to be in a place where candidates can say, if I don't win, there'll be a bloodbath. I think that kind of rhetoric has to come to an end.
Yeah, there's both the rhetoric and the reality of political violence. I mean, it's not just that, attempted assassination that we just saw, and the shooter is a 20-year-old young man who seemed disturbed, a registered Republican, a gun enthusiast. Imagine if he had been on the other side of the political spectrum, how violent the reaction might have been to the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
But we've seen other episodes. Remember what happened to Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, who was the victim of brutal violence and is, really still recovering from that. Look what happened to Steve Scalise, who got shot. Look at January 6th, where more than 140 of our officers were brutalized, wounded, hospitalized after really savage medieval style attacks went on for 4 or 5 hours. And so I wish I could say we were strangers to political violence, but we're not. But it's so critical for us to address it. Gabby Giffords, a congresswoman who was shot when she was just out doing a constituent meeting in public. So, we're dealing with the reality of violent threats and death threats all of the time. And you're right about the rhetoric. People should not be talking about the end of democracy, the end of voting. I heard the former president say, well, just vote in this election and we don't have to worry about it anymore. We'll take care of it after that. That's just the dangerous rhetoric. And the anti-democratic rhetoric goes hand in hand with the rhetoric of political violence.
And anti-democratic is not just big D, but it's really little d. I mean, this is an assault on people.
Oh, yeah.
This is democracy at its core that they're attacking, which is disturbing.
Well, we want to be able to teach young people for real that democracy is a system where people articulate and debate issues, but conflict is resolved peacefully and nonviolently, and we all abide by the rule of law. Authoritarian and fascist political parties, the political scientists tell us, have certain hallmarks, and one of them is that authoritarian parties don't accept the results of democratic elections that don't go their way. Another is that they embrace political violence or refuse to disavow it as a means for obtaining political power. And they're organized generally as a cult of personality around a charismatic figure or an allegedly charismatic figure whose word is elevated above the rule of law. And then the electorate, the public, is divided by scapegoating and racism, anti-Semitism, immigrant bashing, and efforts to demonize and vilify minority groups. So, we are seeing this dynamic all over the world right now, and it's very important for people across our political spectrum. And this is why I've been so happy to get to work with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Mitt Romney and others on the GOP side. It's just important for all of us to reject violent attacks against the constitutional process that we have.
It's not sustainable to be like this, and it's not fair to put people on edge. I mean, it's terrifying to think that people will wake up, suppose the Democrat wins in November, to have to wake up and think, is the next thing we're going to have to face another insurrection because they don't like the outcome of an election? That's just unheard of in this country. And
yeah. Well, I feel like at least a violent insurrection on January 6th, we will be much better prepared for, and I think we'll be able to deter that. The problem is that, as you're suggesting, if there are groups in society that don't accept basic rule of law concepts and obligations, then the authoritarian threat will emerge in other places. There are, clearly efforts in some states to try to withdraw significance from the election and put all the power in the state legislature or create some kind of supervisory body above the election boards to review and to change results. And so, I'm afraid that there's going to be a checkerboard attack on the integrity of this election. And that just means that, we need to make certain that there are good lawyers on the side of the right to vote and real election integrity, not trying to disenfranchise people and suppress people's voting rights.
I hope you're right. This is really a crucial time in this country, not unlike anything I think any of us have seen in our lifetime. It's unlike anything that I can think of in the modern, political era, where the survival of democracy was actually at stake and people challenged the legitimacy of elections. I mean, there have been controversial elections, but nobody's ever gone to the point that this has gone to, and that's a little unsettling. On the bright side, what do you think? Do you have hope that the interest rates are going to drop finally? Can I be frank?
Yeah.
One of the most disturbing things I heard from Powell early on was bemoaning the heating up of the economy for creating so many jobs. And the result of so many jobs is that workers were in a better position to compete for higher wages. I always thought that job creation was like a really good thing. And that if the economy was creating jobs, we'd be celebrating because that meant people were getting paychecks instead of welfare checks. What happened?
Well, under the Biden-Harris administration, we've seen not only the creation of 15 million new jobs, but real wage growth. And, as close to full employment as we've ever been in our lifetime. And we're also seeing a renaissance in the labor movement, and a lot of young people, the big majority of young people, I just saw an article about this yesterday, favor unions and would like to have the opportunity to get into a union, and so the growth of unions has generally accompanied the growth of the economy and strong job growth. So I think we're in a strong place, and I generally don't make predictions about interest rates, so I don't know. I'll have to ask Sarah about that. She might be able to tell me.
Yeah, I dearly hope there's a drop. I mean, it certainly affects the economy.
Yeah.
Congressman and Mr. County Executive, but I just like to interrupt in this very important conversation. Congressman, we were notified that you need to depart by 1:30. Is that the case? So you can remain a little longer so we can take some questions from the media?
I've got a meeting. Let's take a few questions. I've got a meeting and I can be a couple minutes late for it.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Members of the media, if you have any questions for the congressman, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. No questions for the congressman? Oh, there's Jeannie Bixby, Mocha 360. Good afternoon, Jeannie.
Good afternoon, Lorna, Mark. Hi, Representative Raskin. My name's Jeannie Bixby. I'm a reporter with MoCo 360. I was wondering, going back to the gun violence conversation, what have you seen at the local and state level here, or what would you like to see at the local and state level to address those issues?
Well, of course, but when I was in the state legislature, I was proud to, be one of the movers for the Maryland Firearms Control Act of 2013. We banned the assault weapons, and that was part of a broader package that included a universal violent criminal background check. And so we've been able to get a lot done. The problem, of course, is that you can't really have gun safety in one state.
Right.
Maybe in Alaska or Hawaii that works a little bit, but basically, we're surrounded by states, Virginia, Jersey, Delaware, where it's very easy to acquire firearms. And at least when I was in the legislature, I don't know what the figures are now, but half of the firearms recovered in homicides in Maryland had come from out of state, had come from New York or Jersey or Virginia or North Carolina. I think that Maryland's taken the high road, and I think that there are I remember there was one mass shooter in Howard County. I can't remember which shopping mall he went to, but he had gone to try and purchase an AR-15 in Maryland, and he couldn't get it because of our law. So he ended up with a rifle, and he killed several people. But in the grim arithmetic of gun violence, we probably saved a lot of lives that day if he'd been able to get an AR-15. Somebody will remind me which shopping mall that was. So, we've had some minor successes like that, but it's just an uncivilized way we're living. I mean, the rate of gun fatalities in America is 25 times higher than the nations of the European Union. We're an absolute outlier of nations because of the power of the firearm manufacturers and the NRA, and the fact that they're able to use minority political power through the filibuster and other mechanisms like that to forestall any real progress.
Yeah, I just want to add a point about, one of the things that bothers me most is the ghost gun issue, because you can buy all the parts of a gun. If you've ever owned the gun and you've taken it apart, this is not rocket science to put the pieces together. No special devices needed, and those aren't regulated. They're not treated as guns, and it's bizarre to me that you can buy a gun in a kit, and then you're not subject to anything. But if you buy a regular gun, it has to be delivered to a registered gun dealer. You have to sign, you have to get a permit from the state of Maryland for the gun in its assembled form, but you don't need anything to get a gun in a disassembled form. And that seems to be one of the amazing oversights. And they hide behind the veneer that this is supposedly for collectors. This is nonsense. So to me, that's one thing that would make a difference.
A ban on ghost guns. A ban on ghost guns is also clearly necessary, because if we don't, then that's a completely unregulated market.
Yep.
And we're not able to do background checks on anyone. We're not able to keep guns out of the hands of minors or fugitives or convicted felons or anybody.
I could live with having the gun if you could just require that they have to register it. You can't sell it to somebody and mail it to somebody's house. If you try to buy a gun online, they will tell you they have to send it to a registered firearm dealer. And there's all the stuff you just don't go in there and pick it up. So this is a place regulation would be really welcome. I'm sure Republicans will have an answer for that.
Thank you, Jeannie. I see that Judith Hurst from the Greater Olney News also has her hand up. Go ahead, Judith. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Congressman, before President Biden made the heroic decision of not seeking re-election, how concerned were you by the upcoming election?
I've been thinking about it. I of course, wrote President Biden a letter just urging him to caucus with the team and to talk to people around the country. But I was worried a bit about the reaction to the debate, because there was always a vast reservoir of affection for President Biden, but there was real concern even among his fans that he would not have necessarily the energy to conduct the kind of campaign we needed and to carry that through. In any event, he made a truly heroic and patriotic decision, demonstrating to the country what it means to put country above self. And the consequence has been magnificent. It's just been politically explosive. It's just been an electrifying thing on the Democratic side and among independents and even among some moderate Republicans who are looking for a strong, viable candidate against Trump. So, I just think President Biden did the right thing. Politics is a tough business, and being president is the toughest job. And I think it wears on even people much younger. I mean, look at what it did to President Obama. I saw him not long ago, and it just ages you. I mean, that's a job where you wear all the worries of the world if you do it the right way, as clearly President Biden has. But, he's been a fantastic president, and he's going to continue to be a fantastic president for the next 6 months. And he remains the heart and the soul of the Democratic Party. And I think he could end up making one of the greatest speeches of American history at our convention, and will definitely be bathing in the love and the adoration of the country at that moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. Members of the meeting, any more questions for the congressman before he needs to depart? No more questions? Thank you, Congressman. Mr. County Executive, do you want to say goodbye to the congressman?
Yeah, I want to say goodbye. Actually, don't want to say goodbye, but I'll say goodbye. I really appreciate you coming on.
Goodbye for now.
Anytime you want to come and talk about things of importance, this is an opportunity to talk to the, residents of the county and the media. We're happy to contribute to a further dialogue because, frankly, you don't have to have these kind of conversations in normal political life. This is a good thing.
Well, the pleasure, the honor are all mine, Mark. Thank you for the great work you do on behalf of the more than 1 million people who live in our county. And thank you to your staff and everybody who puts this together. And I will definitely come back soon. And I appreciate the fact that we have a very lively and exciting presidential campaign, as well as a Senate campaign and House campaigns. And we've got a lot of interesting stuff going on. And I look forward to seeing everybody out there talking about the issues of the most concern to us.
We will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best to you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you. Have a good one. Mr. County Executive, other topics? Do you have any other topics to address?
We have other topics. So, first of all, I'm really excited about having that conversation. I think it's good for people to be able to hear kind of like longer comments and, more extended discussion of things than sometimes people get the opportunity. Everything isn't a soundbite. I hate sound bites personally. So I really appreciate being able to have a conversation. So other good stuff that's happening. We got big news. North Bethesda got named by Leisure and Travel as one of the top suburbs to live in nationwide. North Bethesda ranked number 4, topped all of the suburbs in the DC metro area. And it's a community stacked with restaurants, farm markets, cultural institutions like the Strathmore, and a lot of amenities that add to the quality of life of its nearly 50,000 residents. And actually, North Bethesda attracts residents from outside North Bethesda. It's not like it's an island or, a separate county. So it integrates into Montgomery County and becomes one of the attractions here. The Realtors told the magazine that homes in North Bethesda are most sought after in the area. The median sale price was $570,000. Another report by Niche placed user feedback based on user feedback, ranked North Bethesda as #1 best place to live in Maryland. And North Bethesda benefits from strong public and private schools, gets an A grade for family life, health, and fitness, A+ grade, and an A grade in outdoor, nightlife, and diversity categories. So when we look beyond the rankings, you can see the places that elevates the quality of life. It doesn't happen by accident. We put a lot of hard work into establishing partnerships and ease the process of doing business across the county so places like North Bethesda can thrive. I'll say quickly, our permitting department is not the permitting department of the old days, and it's much more focused on making sure we make things happen and solve problems rather than erecting barriers. So we continue to try to make it easier for people to do the things they want to do here. We spent a lot of time listening to our community needs, which help develop policies that are both proactive, and at times reactive, because sometimes reactive is what you have to do and proactive is what you should always be doing. If you want to get more involved in improving quality of life in our county, I encourage people to connect with one of our 5 regional services offices. They're in Bethesda, East County, Silver Spring, Up County, and Wheaton. These offices offer opportunities to better connect with residents and the community and keep the community engaged in matters of public interest. And the spotlight on North Bethesda this week, that was greatly appreciated, and I think it's another good sign for things happening in this county. Next Tuesday is National Night Out. National Night Out is an annual campaign that promotes police and community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie, and it not only helps our neighborhood safer, but encourages neighbors to get to know each other better, which helps bring a stronger sense of community. There's several events planned across the county that will give neighbors an opportunity to meet local law enforcement and our first responders. Some of the communities planning events include Bethesda, Germantown, Kensington, Olney, and Silver Spring, and there are more. And there will be fun activities for kids, family, and food and refreshments, live entertainment, music, and raffles and giveaways. So lots of opportunities to be out there. On another matter of public safety, I think everybody knows that Hyundais are especially susceptible to car theft. And if you look at our statistics in Montgomery County, the number of cars stolen, almost half of them, I think, last one I saw, are either Hyundais or Kias. So they're at the top of the list. On August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're going to have free Hyundai anti-theft software upgrade event. And the Montgomery County Police Department has teamed up with Hyundai to host anti-theft software upgrade this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Burtonsville. That's our second 3-day event to help Hyundai owners prevent auto theft. More than 1,000 cars are reported stolen in the county in the first 6 months of the year. Nearly half of them were Hyundais. Hyundai thefts nationwide began to jump in the last 2 years after a viral video on social media exposed a manufacturing weakness that made the cars with a mechanical turn-on key ignition easier to steal. So Hyundai has a fix for it. We're also offering, I think it's wheel locks. We recognize this continuing concerns are offering drivers a chance to get a free software upgrade to prevent their cars from being stolen and get a free steering wheel lock. The event is open to owners of 2011 to 2021 Hyundai vehicles and lessees. You don't have to make an appointment. No ID is required. You can bring your 2011 to 2021 Hyundai to Paint Branch High School, located at 14121 Old Columbia Pike in Burtonsville, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 8 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, and on Sunday on the 4th from 8 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So to kick off the event, the police department will hold a press conference with Hyundai at the Montgomery County Police Headquarters at 100 Edison Drive in Gaithersburg this Thursday morning, August 1st at 10. So we're doing what we can to help protect people. I'm glad Hyundai belatedly but finally stepped up to make sure that we can protect people's vehicles, and hopefully this will reduce the number of car thefts in the county. So that's progress. We just wrapped up another successful county farm tour and Harvestdale over the weekend. Next week is yet another opportunity to see large share of the work that's done in their agricultural reserve. It's the Montgomery County Ag Fair. It starts Friday the 9th, runs 9 days through Saturday the 17th. This year is the 75th Jubilee celebration with the theme of honoring yesterday, today, and tomorrow on the farm. I encourage you to visit mcagfair.com to purchase your ticket and plan your visit. Some of the entertainment options include a rodeo, monster truck show on multiple nights, and demolition derbies to close out the fair on Friday and Saturday, August 16th and 17th. You can see animals on display each day starting at 3 p.m. There's free entertainment, a kid zone with activities for children, a large carnival to enjoy until at least 11 p.m. and until midnight on Friday and Saturday. One change from previous years is no longer going to be public entry or parking at the Chestnut Street entrance. You can either pay to park at the fairgrounds on Prairie Parkway or take a free shuttle from either Old Lake Forest Mall parking lot or the Montgomery College campus in Rockville. MCDOT is also making its rideshare service an option for fairgoers. So with that, and there's no update from our health team this week, so I guess we go straight to questions.
All righty then, Dr. Stoddard, do you have any updates, anything? No? Members of the media, if you have any questions regarding any topics for the county executive, the health team, or Dr. Stoddard, please raise your hand. Any more questions this afternoon? I guess we don't have any additional questions. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Stay safe. Have a great afternoon.